everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 25th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Mel. How you doing, Mel?
I'm doing great. It's a tough act to follow. Last week I followed Chappelle on the update. Today I'm following Jacob Jones. Big shoes to fill, but I'm ready to do it.
Yes, well, we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. It was day 49 in the house. And again, not a lot of movement here in the house, but there was a lot of campaigning going on, a lot of debates for sort of the future of not only this week, but the season itself as we move forward with this cookout structure. We, of course, have Sarah Beth as the HOH. She has nominated Derek X to replace Xavier on the block against Claire. And the votes are still there to evict Derek, but he is going to be trying his best to convince the House to keep him around. Tiffany also has been trying to flip this vote to keep Derek X around. In order to get the votes, he's going to need 4. And that 4 would almost definitely have to be some combination of Tiffany, Hannah, Azah, and Big D or Kyland or both. And so that is what the primary sort of driving force of the day here is.
Taryn, it's okay. We can have a little bit of hope. DX might stay. Like, finally, we're getting this little bit of like, oh, might happen. It's hard to get excited, but he had some good pitches yesterday, and I'm excited to go over them.
All right. Well, we started the day with Xavier and Big D. Xavier is a bit frustrated with Tiffany and her whole push to keep Derek around. Now, Hannah, the day before, had really been talking to Xavier about how Tiffany is pushing and talking about, like, why am I having to talk Tiffany into wanting to get rid of Derek X? And I will say that I saw this as Hannah kind of just not trying to keep Derek around, kind of trying to be like, hey, I'm the good one, take me, not Tiffany. But as the day progressed, it seems as though genuinely Hannah is frustrated that she is having to argue that Derek X should leave because genuinely she wants him to leave.
It just, hey, what are you doing, girl? Like, it's just so frustrating to watch because you at least think, okay, she did the thing where she like had to, where it's like, yes, my pawn can go, that's fine, Derek X can go. But then when you see that there's some inkling that he might stay, I don't know what she's thinking about. Like hop on board. Like, the train's starting to move. Because if he leaves, she's not going to get credit for it. Like, sure, she may have like kicked him a little bit at the door when some people were wondering, but like, she can't claim that later, and he can win comps for her, and I don't know what's going on with her.
Yeah, genuinely, there's a conversation between her and Tiffany later in the day. We'll get to it. But I last night I gave Hannah a 7. Melissa and Chantel gave her a 4 and a 5 respectively.
Yeah, that was rough.
Honestly, though, I've seen a lot of criticism for those ratings. Honestly, after that conversation with Tiffany, and I think coming to understand Hannah's motivation here a little more, I think I was too high on Hannah. I think that I should have been at least down at a 6. I thought that she was trying to maneuver within the cookout. That does not appear to be her motivation here. So
that's one of the really frustrating things about watching the cookout right now is, like, now is the prime time to start getting yourself set up for the end game. Like, okay, we've accepted that they're trying to go to the final 6, and that's great. But like, then what? Not many of them seem to be concerned with the putting the army together or doing anything after that point, and I just don't know why. Do you know why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I fully think that Hannah has no problem setting herself up. She has no problem, potentially making the cookout less likely to go to final 6. I don't think she has any problem with any of that. I don't think this is for the cookout. I think this is for her. And I think it's for her because she does not want to go to the end with Derek X. She does want the cookout to succeed and all of that, but she's fine setting herself up in other ways. But I think, and she's going to say this multiple times throughout the day, that she does not want to have to be the one to take Derek X out herself. This is being done by somebody else. And so she wants this opportunity now, because if he does stay next week or the following week, and then it comes on her to take him out directly, she doesn't want to have to do that. She doesn't want to have to be the one to do that.
Which is fair.
It's not fair. I don't think it's fair at all, because she directly took him out this week by convincing him not to play in the roulette. She did him dirtier this week than she would if she took him out herself. I think this is a worse way for him to go. She's concerned about his jury vote, and she's, I guess, concerned about like him being mad at her. I don't know, but like I think that she's doing him so much dirtier this week than she would possibly be doing him if she won HOH at Final 7 and took him out. And I think that he's going to be more. I think he's going to be more upset about it the way that she did it this way than if she did it another way.
Maybe. I don't know about that necessarily. I do agree that just taking him out would be such a good move. Like we've seen that in Survivor so many times. Like they cut the partner and then they get to take all the credit for it. So she wants like the worst of both worlds, where she doesn't take him out, but he leaves, and then like he's gonna vote for her. Like I don't know, unless she's beside Tiffany at the end, like he's gonna vote for her.
And that's what Tiffany ultimately will tell her. I think that Derek probably votes for Hannah regardless, and that's why it's silly for her to worry about this in the first place. But I think he's less likely to vote for her when she makes a move like this, where she like very sneakily convinces him to not play in a thing. He's still convinced that she played for him. He still thinks that she went to bat for him. He will go to jury thinking that, and then we'll eventually find out that she was playing him the whole time, versus, hey, you know, it's Final 7 or Final 6 or whatever, and I'm sorry, but you're too big of a threat, and I have this other commitment. I need to take the shot at you now. I think that is so much more respectable and understandable, because it at least also would kind of make sense for her game at that point, whereas taking him out now doesn't make any sense for her personal game, and it's underhanded. I feel like the combination of those two things makes it less likely that he'd vote for her in this situation. But I will say again, I think he'll probably vote for her regardless, unless she's next to, say, Tiffany or perhaps even Xavier at this point, because he does respect Xavier's game. Honestly, I could see him voting for Kyland as well, you know, depending on how Kyland plays it. But I think that the motivation of jury vote is ridiculous. I think it's fully just that she doesn't have the heart.
That's what I was gonna say is fair. Like grit. She just like would feel too bad to do it, so she needs to do it in this underhand way. Then sure, exactly. I can see that. But it also, like you said, it doesn't seem like that's really the motivation, because she keeps talking about the jury vote, unless that's just hiding her feelings.
I think it's that she doesn't have it in her. She doesn't feel like she has it in her, because this is what you see all the time, right? Like she is essentially she wants to ghost him. She doesn't want to have the hard conversation. Yeah. She wants to just like pretend that it never happened. And just like, okay, well, you're gone. I tried everything. Oh man. But
what also bugs me about this is that like everyone's still talking about targeting him. So unless she feels like he's the danger to win the next 4 weeks straight of competitions, HOHs and vetoes, like everyone's like, okay, well, if he stays this week, we'll get him out next week. Like he's still going on the block. He's still a target. Like, and especially with the coin thingy next week, like it just. Although, is getting Claire out good for her game, or bad for her game, or neutral for her game? Claire's not really going for Hannah.
I mean, Claire's not bad for Hannah, but Derek is much better, right?
Yes.
You know, he's a lot more likely to be a target in front of her, to take shots for her, and you know, essentially keep the cookout guys in line, and prevent them from just steamrolling the rest of this game. And I talked about this as well, but like Derek being in the game gives her more power in the game, more influence, because she is Derek's person. She is controlling him. If he does win and he takes a shot not at the cookout guys, then she even though, because she wants to be loyal to the cookout, even though she you know, that doesn't benefit her in the way that we say it could, where like he's won and takes out one of those guys for her, and now it's an easier path to the end. That would be the better play. But even still, just him winning and her being able to direct him somewhere else gives her more credit in the end game if she
Kyland
does
is
end up in
basically
the
going
final
to
two.
take this week as a Kyland week. Like she could do the exact
Exactly.
same thing for him.
Exactly. Kyland is going to be able to take full credit for getting rid of Derek X this week. And he didn't even have to do it himself. And so it's that kind of influence and power that I think is going to impress, especially this jury of fans. And, intentionally giving up all of your weapons is not going to play well to this jury, in my opinion.
No. Yeah, it's definitely going to come into play when we see the men versus women, which we'll probably talk about later, but that's really, really starting to build up, and DX would be really important to help her with that.
Mm-hmm. So Hannah's very lucky that this conversation happened, like right as
am I with
table
Hannah
started.
Stock.
So Xavier says that he thinks that Tiffany's trying to just avoid the block all season long. That's what she's trying to do. She can avoid the block all season. Then Xavier, again, talking to Big D, if she can avoid the block all season, then she'll have something to say for her game, because otherwise she'd have nothing, because the guys are carrying all the women. And Big D's like, oh, well, don't worry about that. I'm going to put her up with the coin. So I'm going to keep her on the block. Then she won't have that argument either. These do-nothing women. Yeah.
Sorry, your audio is cutting out for me. It's probably just my internet, so continue.
Okay, well, hopefully it was not cutting out for anyone else. Kyland and Tiffany did talk here, and he says that basically, Tiffany, like, you got to stop. You got to stop trying to get Derek to stay. This is becoming a problem. Again, he says, even Hannah is telling me that she's having to convince people it's the right move to take out Derek. And Tiffany's like, excuse me? Hannah said that to you? And he's like, yeah, she did. And Tiffany is now like, okay, this is concerning to me. Kyland is also annoyed because he says, look, I want to be able to vote for Derek to stay this week. I want to give him my vote. Obviously, Hannah is going to, give him the sympathy vote, right? But I want to give him a second sympathy vote. And it shouldn't be you. You don't deserve it. I deserve it. I made this happen. I'm the one that tricked Sarah Beth into making this move. So I should be able to give him the vote this week.
They get really excited later. They're like, what if he accidentally gets sympathy vote saved in the game? Which is not going to happen. So don't get excited about that. But yeah, it's really funny to see them fighting over. I want to give him the sympathy vote. It's like, if you just get all on the same page, you can give him all the sympathy votes and he stays, then most of you are happy anyway.
Yeah. So Tiffany, now with like the heads up from Kyland that even Hannah has now turned on her in this, is going to go to Kyland and Xavier and say, look, I'm not fighting for Derek. I've made my position clear, but if everyone else thinks differently, that's fine. I'm cool with it. I'm not going to fight anymore. And then she says to the cameras, I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna make this flip happen.
This is why we love Tiffany. Like, thank you. Like, and she always says it in like the best way. She's like, I'm not done fighting yet, or like, I told them this, but I'm gonna do this, and it's so good.
Mm-hmm. So she goes to Derek. She says, you need Kyland. This idea you had, because Derek had the idea to pitch that Xavier, Kyland, Alyssa, and Sarah Beth are working together in an alliance and that he's gunning for them. She says, you can say you're gunning for Sarah Beth. Don't say you're gunning for Kyland. It's not going to play. You need Kyland, I think, in order to make this happen. So
is that because she thinks that he can't get Derek F?
I mean, I think it's because if he says that he's against, like, the primary argument here is that if he's targeting the guys, then it's not good for the guys to keep him around. But if he says he's targeting Sarah Beth and not mentioning Kyland, then it gives at least the illusion that, like, hey, if Derek wins, he'll put up Sarah Beth and maybe Alyssa. And then if he puts the both of them up, then boom, week over. It's a done deal.
Going after Sarah Beth? How is that a battle at all? Do they think Claire won't?
Who?
Kyland. Like, if this is the pitch to Kyland, I'll put up Sarah Beth. It's like, everyone's putting up Sarah Beth. Like, it doesn't make you special. Like, why would that make? Actually, I should keep him then because he'll get rid of Sarah Beth.
Well, I think it's basically what she's saying is what Derek needs to say is that he's not going after Kyland and that he's
Right.
going after Sarah Beth. And that's the baseline. If he's saying anything else, they can't keep him.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what Tiffany is going to be doing as well on the other side of things is, yeah, I don't know about Claire. I don't know what she
Okay.
hasn't been talking to me lately. I don't know what she's doing. I'm worried that she might do something weird. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach there.
That hurts my heart to hear. They're Tiff and Claire, duos from the beginning, BFF, and now she's like, no, friendship over with Claire. DX is my best friend now. It's like, oh, but Claire.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it because Claire's not doing too much for Tiffany. DX could do more, but still sad.
Yeah. So Xavier talks to Hannah, and she again expresses to him how frustrated she is that she's having to convince people that it's the right move to send Derek out. She says the only way she would be okay with keeping Derek this week is if everyone else agreed that they would do it, that they would take him out later, because she is not going to do it herself. That she talks to Tiffany later about what happens if Derek's on the block and then I win the veto. Now I have to use the veto on him. Like, that's not a good place to be. It's like this is full on. It was so prophetic that she had this conversation about Paul last week, where they were like, Paul couldn't admit to anything in their goodbye messages.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, but would you even want to know? I feel like I wouldn't even want to know. Hannah, people are gonna know that you were behind this. But here's the thing: you weren't behind it. You just prevented it from changing. I don't understand this idea that if you don't do it directly, then you didn't do it. Your hands are clean.
It's like they all put DX in a room and then closed the door, and she held the door closed while he was trying to get out, and she's like, oh wow, they put you in a room. That sucks. It's like, yes, you literally helped it happen, especially if she's talking about not using the veto. I mean, that's a different situation. But yeah, no, she is fighting for him to leave, and he's going to find out about it. How do you think you're going to keep it? What, do you just think she's going to keep it secret till after the season?
Mm-hmm.
If she's in final 2, that no one's going to mention it. Oh yeah, Hannah was gunning for you the whole week. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very silly idea to me in all kinds of ways. And again, I was cool with this idea. I didn't think it. I think that Hannah started this ball rolling. I think that Derek X is leaving directly because of what Hannah did last week. I think there's a very good chance he's not leaving this week if Hannah doesn't do what she did last week.
And you're totally against that idea. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm saying that I did not. I thought that was a bad move.
Okay.
I thought that she was making a mistake. But then coming into this week with the ball already rolling, I was on board with okay,
I see.
There's not a lot that can be done here. And you're kind of using this situation to push Tiffany and Azah under the bus. That's fine. But there's a genuine flip that could happen here. She could actually make something happen, and she's actively turning it down, which is bad in itself. But even then, I'd be like, it's still fine because you're still doing something here, but it's the motivation behind it. She's not actively working in that way for that reason. And so I can't get past this.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sorry to the Hannah lovers. There's a lot of ranting this morning, but yeah, we're very frustrated because if she gave any sort of other reason other than what if I might have to take him out later? It was like, oh, getting DX out means, like you said, that kind of what you said pushes Tiff and Azah together. That could be something that happens, but
well, it's just in the sense that she's been basically saying to Kyland and Xavier and Big D, hey, Azah and Tiffany, they're being selfish. And so it kind of elevates her status to the men while throwing the other women under the bus, which
everyone's favorite.
Yeah, everyone loves that. But at least it's a strategy that can work in Big Brother. But that's not even that's just a side effect of what she's doing. It's not her actual goal.
Yeah, if she really leans into this whole goes to the guys, throws the girls under the bus, goes to the girls, pushes a girls alliance, if she tries to do something like that, then I'll give her more credit, but not yet.
So Derek is going to start to get to work here. He pitches to Azah. He says, basically, he wants to go after Sarah Beth. And, you know, if he'd put up like Sarah Beth, maybe Alyssa, or maybe Sarah Beth and Kyland, and that she says, well, what happens if Sarah Beth wins the veto? And he says, well, you know, my thought would probably be Xavier, but I would have to consult the house about it. Like I would want to talk to you. I would want to talk to the people I trust, and figure out what, you know, the right replacement nominee. And basically, I know I am on like I'm on my last legs here. I'm on borrowed time in this house. My goal here is that there are 3 people in this game that I really, you know, if Claire leaves, that I really like. You, Hannah, and Tiffany, and I want to push you 3 as far as I can in this game. That's basically my goal. And it's like, yeah, that's basically why it's great to keep him. And he says that he's noticed that Xavier and Kyland have been talking a lot with Big D and pulling him into rooms and talking as a threesome lately. And so just pointing that out. And after Derek leaves, Azah talks to the camera. She's like, "Whoa, that was a really, really good pitch. I'm gonna have to think about that. Like, I was totally fine to vote him out. Like, and now I don't know. America, what are you doing? Why are you giving me $50, America? You really see
so
me
funny.
the same way that you see Kylan and SB? That's not okay. You're giving me $50, and now you want me to come and save your boy? Real cute, America."
Yep. This is an exciting conversation because it's so hard to tell when they're pitching. It's like, oh, yeah, yep, I'm really considering it. You watch that and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But after, and then now she's actually considering it. And then she talks to X later and she's actually considering it. And it's like, oh, something might happen. And like you said, it was a good pitch. I had some feelings after this. So DX cried while he was pitching. Honestly, he was very, very sad. It was very sad. I'm tired of this kumbaya, Big Brother, and maybe I just have to get over it for this season because that's what this season is going to be. But the whole and DX admits like this is a good pitch from DX, so I'm not knocking that. But he talks about he needs to be a martyr. He needs to be like, yes, I will die, so you guys can go on. But like, no, I don't want to hear that. I want people to like be ruthless and say, you know what, DX there, he says they're gonna keep me, and I'm gonna put up Kylan and Xavier. I don't know. I want Big Brother. What's going on here?
I mean, the problem is that he can't say that he will put up Kylan and Xavier.
No, I mean to the cameras, to us.
Okay.
I want in his heart for him to be like, no, I'm not putting up Sarah Beth. I'm not doing what they all want. But he's just a very nice guy, and I'll do what you want, and then I'll get you guys further, and that's kind of, and then I'll lay down and die. And it's like, oh, like I get it. It's nice. I love seeing the genuine friendships, but I'm wanting Big Brother. Give it to me.
I mean, I fully believe that Derek would go after Kylan and Xavier, especially if he doesn't. Yeah? I mean, if Kylan helps keep him, then he wouldn't go after Kylan. Right. But if the vote flipped and Kylan was not on board with it, or like didn't flip with it, I absolutely think that he would go after Kylan and Xavier.
Okay, that makes me
I think he will go after Xavier regardless. He just and I don't know that he knows that yet, but I think he will.
Okay.
Because that's the kind of player Derek is. You know, when he was HOH, he was like, "There's no way I'm missing this shot." And I know how he sees Xavier. There's no way in my mind that he does not take a shot at Xavier. The problem is he might miss by putting up Alyssa next to Xavier, which under normal circumstances would be the right call, but would not be the right call in this particular circumstance.
Would Chada be able to talk him out of it is the question. Because obviously it's a different relationship than the Kylan and Sarah Beth. But I assume she would try to talk him out of it. Or maybe if it was
she'd be
Xavier
cool
and
if Alyssa went up, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And then Sarah Beth would be the replacement nominee if one came down because, oh, she put you up. Why not put Sarah Beth up as a replacement? So I feel like that would be the move there. So Azah has been flipped. I mean, the combination of Tiffany's direction and Derek's very, very compelling social game is very effective. He flips Azah here. He obviously has Tiffany, and he is he's gonna continue to work throughout the day. Sarah Beth is gonna talk to Big D, and she just kind of wants to lock in his vote. He says that he is, don't worry about me. I'm definitely voting Derek out. after he made it clear last week that he was fine with me leaving. You have to understand, Sarah Beth, I never trust people after they cross me. He's done. He says to Sarah Beth, the person that put him on the block this week, and still believes that that Big D will not come after her next week. She says, well, isn't it funny? Derek actually told me that you're coming for me next week. He goes, ha, of course not. Never.
Oh, that's silly.
What a liar that Derek is.
I know you just said what you said, but like this is different. This is us, and we're cool, so it's totally different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You fool.
Yeah. Derek talks to Xavier and gives Xavier his pitch. I feel like this was a misstep here because, again, typically when you make these campaigns, you want to explore all options, yes, but you want to explore your most promising options first. And he realizes it's a mistake after the fact because Xavier makes it very clear to him that it was a mistake. He's making his pitch to Xavier, and Xavier just shuts down like every single point he makes. And I know that Xavier is probably the most likely person to win this game, and I think that he is a very good player, but he makes decisions sometimes that baffle me. The fact that it was his fault that Hannah was nominated by Christian in the first place. The fact that
they stopped talking about this stupid Christian thing. Go ahead.
the fact that that he chose to be a third nominee. The fact that he actively on Derek's HOH refused to try and cooperate because he was still mad about the Christian. He was mad about the Christian thing. And this pitch to Xavier is so. It's so bad on Xavier's part, in my opinion, because after this conversation, because Xavier shuts him down so much, and he's very stern about it too, like very much like why do you what do you mean you think you had a good relationship with Sarah Beth? You do know you put her on the block, right? Dude, chill. Like, make him feel like you've got him on your side. There's no point in doing this. Derek X comes away from this conversation saying, wow, it was a mistake to talk to Xavier. I should not talk to Xavier anymore. I'm going to wait until he's in solitary to make my next pushes because he's clearly my enemy. And holy crap, I'm realizing now if he feels that comfortable to just like completely shut me down, it's best for his game for me to go. And that's because this guy's in the best position. He's winning the game. He literally has an epiphany that Xavier is the biggest threat in the game. And he already kind of knew that. He's been kind of on that, trail for a while. But he says to Kylan later in the night, that he was looking at the chessboard and he was listening to what Xavier was saying. And he was like, oh my God, like this guy is going to win the game. And he now is going to start spreading that to Kylan and to Tiffany and to anyone else that will listen to him. And it's just like, all you needed to do, Xavier, was just like nod and be like, yeah, great point.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll consider that. Oh, you gave me something to think about. Good pitch. Like all the regular platitudes, like Xavier's a charismatic guy, like he can figure it out. Yeah, no, this was so bad. Bad on DX's part. Like he also should have known better. Like you can't. I mean, I know they still don't know about the cookout and that they're cross-referencing things, but like X and Azza do have a talk later where it's like, oh, he told me different things than that, so he's obviously lying. Like you can't pitch to everyone and not tell them all the same things because they're just gonna then all talk about it. So that was bad. But yeah, super bad on X's part. Like, what was he trying to accomplish here? Why do you think he was so like not able to kind of fake it? Like, is he threatened by DX and really wanted to just like in that moment had to be like, no, like you're not right. You're not good for my game.
He says to Hannah later that he was like, well, Derek was bringing up some really good points, but I was able to shut them all down. And
like,
so,
what do you think that's going to do, though? Like, DX is going to be like, oh, well, he's right. I'm bad for his game. I guess I'll just leave.
Like, yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of it. Like, because, I mean, Xavier has put himself in the position of, because he's going into solitary. He wants to make sure this vote is locked in before he goes in, because like many people in the cookout, he feels like he's running the game. And so he, I think, probably feels like he has been shutting down arguments that stem from Tiffany or Derek X all day long. And so, you know, when he's talking to Derek X, he's just in that mode of like, no, this is why this point is wrong. This is why this point is wrong. And like, instead of just like internally keeping track of like counter arguments that he can say to other people. He says them out loud to test them out, like, oh, but what about this? What about this? And
Oh, they
then
worked great.
and it worked. I was able to shut him down. Now I can tell everyone that his arguments made no sense because I shut them down. But what he actually did is convince Derek X that he should not be talking to Xavier.
Yeah, we might be in for a really interesting Waffle Wednesday because there's a lot of talk about like when X goes into solitary, mostly by the fans, but like there's a lot you can tell people are like kind of waiting to do things, especially Tiffany. Like there's really going to be a big push, I think, when he's not there to do anything about it. And it's interesting this time because I feel like how many solitaries have there been before as punishments? Just the two?
Let's see.
Dan and Judd?
There was also it was Kristen, right? Kristen was in one in BB12.
Okay.
Obviously Danielle Reyes in season 7.
Okay, but
Shelley,
not too important. But I'm just thinking like they've never really been let out to vote, right? They've always been, they come out and they hug and they have food or whatever. But this time it sounds like he's going to come out and go into the diary room to vote for eviction.
Yeah, I don't think it's been unless you count Christmas in the hospital.
That was wild.
Solitary.
Wow. I mean, I guess, but yeah. No, she had no agency. It didn't matter.
So yeah, it's taking him out of play right before the vote, which is definitely a little more interesting. Although if that had been,
it would be anything. Like, okay, a member of the cookout, whatever, they'll do a signal or nothing's going to change. Like if any other week, it would have been completely fine if a member of the cookout was in solitary. But the fact that it's this week is really, really interesting.
It should have been that he lost his vote, in my opinion. That he shouldn't have voted.
Why?
That would have made the solitary confinement actually feel more interesting. I feel like solitary confinement
solitary and loses his vote. That seems too big for one punishment.
Being a third nominee is way worse.
I guess so. It really depends on the structure of the House, I guess, because being a third nominee right now is probably going to be fine, but losing a vote also right now would be fine, but in a situation where he's not fine.
Well, I mean, the thing about these punishments is that they chose them, right? Like they had a choice of punishments. So like, I think they can be as harsh as you want because it's on the players if they choose them, right? So
yeah, just the fact that like only one person can win it. It's like you win this super giant mega punishment rather than breaking it up. Like I think losing a vote would also have been a good punishment, like available for money. I just don't like it when there's just like one big punishment that's like super whatever the opposite of expensive is. I don't know. I don't think that's that bad.
Okay.
Given how comfortable he feels.
Well,
like,
it's probably not that bad for Xavier, but for most other people, it would have been game ending.
Oh, the twist is garbage, but the fact that Xavier like had it, I don't think is as that big of a deal.
So that campaign happens. Then Tiffany and Hannah have their conversation. So Tiffany basically was informed that Hannah was basically throwing her under the bus. She talked to Hannah about it. And Hannah is essentially she starts this conversation. She apologizes to Tiffany. Like, I'm sorry I shut you down so quickly with regards to Derek X. I've been thinking that, I'm, going through with the right move, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to hearing why it makes sense to keep Derek X around. And it's made very clear that she's not actually open to hearing those things. Immediately, she starts shutting down every single point that Tiffany makes. Tiffany basically says she starts saying that, we need to keep Derek around. He'll be better for our game. He'll be a better target here. She's not sure where Claire stands. She's not sure what Claire is going to do. And Hannah's just like, nope. What if Derek does this? What if this happens? And Tiffany's like, okay, so you're clearly not actually listening to me here. How about this then? You know how we're sticking together? Don't expect them, the guys, to not stick together as well in this final 6. And Hannah says, okay, look, my concern here is that if Derek stays, he's going to win the coin next week. Then he'll win something else the next week. And then what if we have to be the ones to take him out and then we lose his jury vote? Or what if, what if he's on the block and we need to not use a veto and we lose his jury vote because of that? And Tiffany says, that makes no sense. We're all responsible for sending him home right now. We've all lied to him. You've lied to him this week. you've helped take him out this week. If you're going to lose his jury vote, you're going to lose his jury vote, but I don't think you're going to lose his jury vote. And Hannah says, okay, well, but what about this then? What happens if we leave him in and then, at Final 7, like X or Kai win HOH and then they get to be the ones to send him home and then they get credit for it, right?
Kai's already getting credit for it. Sorry.
And Tiffany says, that makes no sense. It's like, we are all responsible for sending him home this week. And the feed's cut, but I presume that she said something along the lines of, well, Kai is the one who has made this happen this week anyway.
Plus, the plan is for them to be in Final 2. So she, like, having their conversation like, oh, we will lose his jury vote. I mean, obviously, Final 2s don't necessarily mean you'll get there, but if the plan is to get there, then it's like, oh, well, we can't both lose his vote. Mm-hmm. One of us is going to get it, and it's going to be Chada, because it just will be.
This is really, to me, starting to feel like, I've made some Beth references from Big Brother Canada 9.
Why don't you go on the block, Beth?
Some Beth references.
Have fun in jury, Beth.
But she's starting to remind me a lot of Beth. Like this weird, like, I've got to be the one to do this, but I don't want him to be mad that I'm doing this, but I need to they can't get credit for it, but I need to get credit for it, but I don't want to lose a jury vote. So I'm not actually doing it, but I am doing it, but maybe I'm not. And it's just like this weird mess of like, what is happening here? And so Tiffany sees like, okay, this is not going well. And so Hannah's like, do you think the guys feel like they're carrying the cookout? She was like, absolutely. They talk about it openly. It's like, she's like, not just Big D though. I know Big D does, but what about like X and Kai? She's like, no, they talk about it openly. They genuinely feel like they're carrying us.
The guys were getting real cocky yesterday, talking about like having their big meetings with their arms crossed. Oh, these women better start winning some competitions and just getting all. Yeah, no, it was very annoying to watch.
Yeah. And she's like, they clearly do not understand that without us keeping their names out of people's mouths, they would not have gotten this far. It was on the back of our structure that they got to this point. And the fact that they're not even acknowledging that is pretty frustrating, which is directly what I was talking about the other day. I mean, again, Tiffany basically gave up her easy path to the end to benefit the cookout. And now these guys are like, Tiffany does nothing but complain. Like, wow.
If you only knew where you would be without Tiffany. Oh, man.
So she says all three of them got to go once we hit the 6. We've got to make it happen. And Hannah brings it back to Derek again. She says, well, the problem with Derek is that it'll be harder to backdoor him the further along we get. Maybe nobody's going to be capable of taking him out the farther we get. And Tiffany's just like, okay, Jesus. I'm not going to lie and say that keeping Derek in the game doesn't jeopardize all 6 of us getting to 6. Mm-hmm. It does. A little bit. But selfishly, it also does help us get to 3.
There we go. That's what I've been waiting for.
Better position for us. And look, I'm sorry. It's the player in me. I want to actually play this game, and I feel like I can't. And Hannah kind of just pulls back, and she says, look, we just got to make sure Alyssa doesn't win then.
It would be crazy. Like, think 5 weeks ago, if you were told, okay, in 5 weeks, Tiffany and Chada are going to be having a conversation where Tiffany wants Claire to leave and Chada wants DX to leave. Oh.
Yeah. So Oz's going to go to Xavier, and she has still been flipped around by Derek here, and she starts pitching to Xavier that she thinks they should keep Derek. Of course, her going to Xavier as the person she talks to. Worst possible scenario there. It would have been much better if she had talked to anybody else first, really. Because Xavier disagrees with this idea.
And I mean, as he should.
Yes. And Azza says that, but like, aren't we screwed if Alyssa wins? And this is the scenario that Tiffany and Hannah were just talking about. If Alyssa wins, and by the way, like, when that conversation with Tiffany and Hannah, it ended very abruptly after Tiffany said, I maybe it's okay to jeopardize the 6 getting to the 6. Like Hannah like just bounced. And clearly was like, nope, not a
Hopefully
part of that.
Is she gonna get thrown under the bus with that again, like with the other
Not
queens?
yet, but
Might be
could
coming.
be.
Yeah.
So Azza talks to Xavier. She says, we're screwed if Alyssa wins. And then like, okay, maybe Alyssa goes after Claire, but what happens if Claire wins the veto? She's not going after Sarah Beth anymore. So what happens? We're screwed. If Derek is here, then Derek has both Sarah Beth and Alyssa to come after. Alyssa has Derek X to come after. We're in a much better position as the cookout. And Xavier says, nope. He's too dangerous. He's more likely to win at this point in the game. You just got to take out the bigger threats. And you know what? He probably promised you that he would go after Alyssa, but guess what? He's not going after Alyssa. He promised me that he wouldn't go after Alyssa. Which, like, yeah, of course he did. If you kept him, but you're not going to keep him. That's the point. But it's he's sort of using this to obfuscate the reality here and convince Azza that she can't trust Derek. But it doesn't really fully work. She says, I get it. And she is on board to take out Derek still, but clearly the idea and this counter argument, it makes no logical sense. She accepted it because it's one of those situations where like somebody says something to you that makes no sense whatsoever, and you're like, okay, clearly the fact that you're willing to stoop to this level to give me this kind of argument means that you're not willing to concede on this point. We're fine. Whatever.
Doesn't it make sense for X though? Like what he's talking about is where like, yeah, so Derek X promised him that if he stayed, he would keep Alyssa and X safe. So that still means that a cookup member is going up. Like that's one less person.
That's if Xavier kept him, which would not be the plan. But
he's trying to be convinced into keeping. So it's like if he doesn't keep him, then he's gone anyway. And if he does keep him, then a member of the cookout's going. So like that's bad. So he needs to.
The pitch would be from Azza that, herself, Tiffany, Hannah, and Big D or whatever, or maybe even Kyland all vote to keep Derek, where Xavier and Alyssa are on the other side of that vote. And so then Xavier would not have been the person who kept Derek in the game. So Derek would not have to fulfill any promises he made to Xavier to not go after Alyssa.
So Azza's just basically suggesting that Xavier let Azza vote to keep him and he stays, but Xavier still gets to vote him out?
Yes, essentially. I mean, I'm sure Xavier would like go with the house as well at that point. But like Derek would know that this didn't come from Xavier would be the point here. I mean, that's essentially what he pitched to Azza, right? So if this flip comes from the Azza side of things, then Xavier's on the other side of things. And the reality is, of course, Xavier doesn't want this to happen, even if it did make sense for the cookout as a whole, because then a flip is happening that he's not in control of, and he's allowing himself to be in the firing line along with Azza, which is not what he would want at all, and which is why he's going to give this sort of like, well, he promised me this too. He's just promising everyone everything. And again, it doesn't, like, of course he's going to go with the people that give him the thing. But it's kind of like this whole argument of like, well, I'm just not willing to back down here, Azza. And Azza's like, all right, I'll back down.
That actually leads me to another question. So when Xavier and DX talked, Xavier was like, you'll keep Alyssa safe, right? Does X want Alyssa safe though? Because the whole talk with the rest of the cookout is like, oh, good, Alyssa's going to be a target and she's going to go. So was he trying to like trap DX? Does he actually like? I mean, he want Alyssa safe basically.
I don't think he's trying to trap intentionally DX, because he has the same conversation with Claire. Claire's also going to be campaigning a bit through the day. It just doesn't matter as much. And so when she talked to Xavier, he also was like, you're going to be willing to keep Alyssa safe if you win. But obviously, he doesn't say that to Azza.
Yeah.
I'm
just curious what he wants basically, because the cookout's all talking about, oh yeah, Alyssa's a target in front of us, like that's good, and he's going along with that. But then to these people on the block, he's like, oh yeah, I'll keep Alyssa safe, right? So I'm curious, does he just want the best of both worlds, where the cookout doesn't know that he wants Alyssa safe, but she still gets to make it a little bit further?
I think that he's just playing the role. I mean, it would
Okay.
make no sense for him to be like, well, you'd take out Alyssa for me, right? Like that
No,
would
for
be
sure. But
super
going the
weird.
extra mile to ask them, you'll keep Alyssa safe, right? Seems a little bit interesting.
I
How
mean,
to
it
do it.
it reminds me of when he did that to Derek with the Kings. Like
Yeah.
he's like in the Kings. Um
Oh, right, right. I'm supposed to. Okay, okay, that's
yeah.
fair.
But I do think that like it's I think that's what he would say to the cookout. Like, of course, I'm asking for Alyssa to be safe, but I think he would
Right.
also love it if Sarah Beth went before Alyssa,
Mhm.
because Xavier seems to be Xavier and Tiffany both seem to be the only ones who actually care about getting their person to the 7. And something that we
Yeah.
haven't talked about in terms of getting their person to the 7 is that it's particularly valuable because I think at the final 7 HOH, there are going to be a decent amount of cookout members that won't want to win that HOH.
I mean, once they find out it's a not confirmed triple, they're all gonna win, aren't they?
But what I mean by that is that once they hit 6, it's
Yeah.
now, whatever team versus whatever team, whether it's men versus women or it's, Tiffany and Hannah and Xavier versus Kyland and Derek, whatever it is, then if you are a lot safer at 7 than you are at 6, right? So you want to be able to compete in the final 6 HOH to really get the ball rolling. If Tiffany wins at 7 and takes out Alyssa, then she can't compete at 6 to
Oh,
take out
I see.
X.
Yes. You think they won't want to win the one before that one because they will be worried about basically they want someone else to take the first shot, assuming that the lone non-cookout member is able to go that week.
Exactly. You don't want somebody else to be able to take the first HOH at 6 and just set the tone for the rest of the end game
Mhm.
by taking out whoever they want. You want to be able to compete in that final 6 HOH and make sure that you get what you want out of it. And then it's also best to win 6, 4, 3 than 5, and you can't compete at 4.
Mhm.
So that final 6 HOH is a really good spot for this particular game. It's a great spot in general, but it's a really good spot for this particular game. And nobody's going to want to win it at 7, which means that 7th person is more likely to win it because there might be some people in the cookout that aren't super invested in winning it. And you can feel safe to throw that HOH if it's your person that's the 7th.
Yep. Which is why Chada should want DX to play and stay and play for her at final 7.
Yes. So what that means is if it's Alyssa that's in 7th place, Xavier can safely throw that competition knowing that nothing bad can possibly happen to him unless they go after Alyssa and Alyssa wins the veto and then he's, whatever, screwed anyway. But like that's a much more niche scenario than somebody taking a shot at him at 6, where he's in a lot more trouble and he'd still need to win the veto, and especially if he couldn't compete in the HOH. So he can throw that HOH pretty safely. If it goes to Alyssa, it goes to Alyssa. If it goes to anybody else, they're wasting their HOH on Alyssa. It's all fine. And then he can compete at 6, and he can take out whoever he wants if he wins that. If
All this
it's
to
Derek
say
X,
is I'm happy that he's doing this because this is what I was complaining about earlier, that we're not seeing people fight for their people when they get down to the 6. So I'm hoping that what he's telling the DX and Claire is true, in that if the cookout wins and is like, okay, time for Alyssa to go, that he will push back a little bit.
yes. And so like if it's Claire or Derek X at the final 7, then Xavier can't safely throw that HOH because if Claire or Derek X win, then he would be the target, and he would potentially go home because he would probably be put up next to Big D or something, and that's not a winning
Basically
scenario
a death
for
warrant
him.
now.
So he would have to then try to win at 7. If he does win at 7, now he can't compete at 6, and you're in a much better position for that. So it is super, super valuable to have your person be there at 7. It's a weird situation because of the dedication to getting to 6.
Yes.
And because of that, you have very specific situations and like strategies that normally wouldn't be that necessary, but like are extra necessary in this specific scenario. So
Because I was actually excited to get to this point in the game where it's like, okay, yes, the cookout is making their way to the end, but now all their people, all their favorite people are going to be getting picked off, and they're going to have a power struggle about whose person gets to go. But it seems like, oh, it's your person's turn. And that person says, okay. And it's like, oh, well, what? I thought we were going to have a fight and it was going to be good.
Yeah. So that's basically Ozza talks to Xavier. She's basically convinced to like, all right, I'll lie down on this one. Derek talks to Tiffany. He says, okay, I talked to X. I've realized it makes no sense for him to keep me in this game. This guy's going to win the game. And I need to focus on Kylan. But I want to wait until Xavier's in solitary to make my next big push. So in the meantime, Ozza talks to Hannah, and she says, I talked to Xavier, but I still kind of feel like, wasn't it best for us if Derek stays? Like, I just feel like it's better for us. I mean, Xavier basically admits to Ozza, it's good for me that Derek leaves. Probably not good for you, but, you know, he's a liar. Can't trust him. And so Hannah says, yeah, I agree, Ozza, that, you know, him staying would probably be good, but he can't, because then I might have to take him out later. Like, I don't want to have to do that.
I love that she's probably like every person that comes to chat out like, oh, we should keep DX. She's like, seriously? Like, again, I got to do this.
It's like, you are actively doing that right now. That's what this literal sentence is you doing it yourself.
Yep. It's like, it feels like it's almost something that's like when you got a snowball going and it's like halfway down the hill, you can't stop it. She's like, oh man, like if I cave in now, I'll have to do this again. And like, this was already hard enough, although it doesn't seem like it's actually that hard for her. So I don't know, but.
Well, it's kind of like she pushed the snowball off of the mountain, right? She pushed it off, it got rolling, and she was like, okay, this was my plan. I pushed it off, now it's rolling. Nothing I can do about it. And then it hits a tree and it stops. She's like, what the?
No,
okay,
no.
Hold on. She gets in there and she pushes it off the tree and she gets it rolling again. Like, oh man, nothing I can do. It's rolling down Are you serious? It stopped again? Oh my God. All right. Well, I'm just taking a leisurely stroll across this mountain. Oh, I pushed. Oh no, it's rolling down the hill again. There's nothing I can do. I didn't do this. Oh man.
And the snowball crashes into Jerry and votes for her. There's the plan.
So Tiffany talks to the both of them as well, and they talk about, again, how the guys feel like they're carrying them. And Hannah's like, that's fine. Let them think that. Makes them more likely to bring us to the end because they think that we're going to be easy to beat. And I thought that was a very telling statement from Hannah, that she is looking at her end game as the guys taking her to the end.
Girl, you have so much potential. Just, I get so frustrated when I see these players get to this point where they could be doing so much and you know they can, and like, why? What's her argument in the end game? Oh, I didn't get DX out.
I didn't do it, DX. Vote for me.
Yeah, vote for me because you like me, and the guy, like, just, I don't even have an argument. I'll have to hear hers, but no, it's bad. I hate it.
I'm going to say genuinely, I think Derek X is a lot more likely to vote for Hannah if she is the one that actively takes him out versus what's actually happening here. If she tries to say to him, like it wasn't me, it was like, if let's say she's sitting next to Kylan, and she's sitting next to Kylan and she says, it wasn't me, Derek, it was Kylan. Kylan worked so hard to get you out, and I didn't do it. I didn't want to be the one to do it. I didn't do it. He's going to be like, okay, Kylan, props to you then, I guess, because taking me out was a great move. There you go. Like, especially
because he's almost certainly sitting in jury with Claire, and they're going to be talking about strategy. And we know that Claire, the way Claire votes, and that DX is probably going to emulate that. And yeah, she's going to vote for the person who got her out or who did the moves, and she's going to respect that. And so DX probably do the same.
I mean, it's what happened to it's part of what happened to Allison with June. She worked so hard to convince Erica that it wasn't it's not me. That Erica was like, all right, kudos to June. Jeez. And I will say again, I think that he is still more likely to vote for her than not. But I think that she is actively taking the worst path to get there and saying that it's because she wants to take the better path. But, you know, Big D, Derek's going to campaign to Big D later in the night. He proposes basically the ultimate proposal here is that he is willing to throw the Coin of Destiny competition to Big D. And he says, basically, if I go home, then everyone knows you have the Coin of Destiny, Big D. If I stay, then people will feel like I'm going to get it, but I will secretly throw it to you, and then you can choose to do whatever you want. I'll take the heat for it. I'm the bigger target. I will work for you in this game, Big D. And I will go after, Sarah Beth and go after these people that need to be gone after. And he does
Big D is like, I want to believe you, but after last week, you wanted me gone. How can I? Which is fair.
And he says, I didn't like campaign against you. I just was considering the option because of the situation we were in. But he does a great job here. And after this conversation, Big D goes to Kyland and he says, yeah, what about keeping Derek? I kind of feel like that would be good for me. I think it would be good for me. I mean, I get that. Well, I get why getting rid of Derek is good for you and Xavier. But it's not necessarily good for me or Ozza or anybody else. Claire is coming for me. And I don't think Derek is. And this
He's
is
right.
Big. Like, this is very big. Big D on board, Ozza on board. That's all they would need, except Derek doesn't realize that he needs to campaign to Hannah.
So that's the thing. So if we have Ozza and Big D and Tiffany on board and they go to Hannah, do you think she'll be the vote that blocks this from happening?
She can't be the one to send him home, Mel.
but
I need to stop this flip. I need to vote him out now so I don't have to vote him out later directly. But this is direct. But later
so
worse.
Bad if he finds out later, oh yeah, you left 4-3 and Chada voted you out. Like, that'd be so bad. And then denies it. No, there's nothing I could do, or whatever her plan is. Again, I'm very sorry to all the Chada lovers, because I know we're spending a lot of this update being very frustrated with her. But today in particular was very challenging to hear her not, like, basically just keep shutting down this flip. And it's not because I love DX, because to be fair, I do love him, but I don't know if him staying is going to do much, especially if he's just going to do this whole rollover and let them all whatever. But yeah, I need to hear her talk to the cameras and give me a good reason that it's good for her game for him to go this week and not in 2 weeks, because everyone's gunning for it. Just repeat it over and over.
Yeah, and she's talked to the cameras about this, like the logic about, like, what if he wins? What if he wins? Like, she doesn't
need a better reason.
a good reason to do this. We know this. She doesn't have some secret hidden good reason. Straight up, no good reason. So Kyland says, okay, Claire's coming for you. Kyland says, the thing you have to understand is that everybody is coming for everybody. That's the game. Don't you get it? It's just like everybody is coming for you. Everybody ultimately has to take everybody out. So does it really even matter who's coming for who at this point? And Big D's like, okay, yeah, but I don't know. He says, okay, I'm concerned that, Hannah and Tiffany, because basically he's talked to Hannah and Tiffany now. His plan for the Coin of Destiny, we talked about this the other day, is that he wants to target Sarah Beth with the Coin of Destiny, but he wants to do so under the protection of the anonymity that it gives you. But the problem is that if Derek X leaves, as Derek X explained, everybody will know it's him. So he wants to convince Sarah Beth that it's possible that Hannah could have the Coin of Destiny, because it is. But the problem is that she's already lied and said she played, so that's going to have to come out pretty soon, that she didn't play. And that she has the money to get the Coin of Destiny, or that Tiffany could have it, and that she's lied about playing before, and she lied about getting $50, and that she has the amount of money necessary as well.
Quick question: where did they mention that this was going to be anonymous? Like, is that just a known thing about the Coin of Destiny?
Yeah, I don't know if it's been said on the show itself, but it's been something that they've all been very confident in for a long time.
Because the other two rewards, they announced the person, they had to, but I guess maybe it's just an element of the twist
Yeah, I do, because I think I was looking for it when they first went over the rules, and I don't remember them saying it was anonymous, but
Like
on
you
the
said, they
show.
seem so confident that they must
But
be
yeah,
in.
they've all been talking about it like they're all sure it's anonymous, so I'm sure that they were told more
Okay.
rules, or maybe I missed when they said it was anonymous. But
Considering
basically,
the whole thing about DF like wanting to keep DX is because he'll be able to remain anonymous even more so. It seems like it must be confirmed somehow. That would
mhm,
be a very very large assumption.
yeah. So basically, Big D's plan is that he wants to convince Sarah Beth that that Tiffany or Hannah could have been the coin of destiny. I'm so sorry, I didn't I didn't get it. I didn't get the coin of destiny. I don't know what happened. I thought I was the only one. Clearly, Hannah or Tiffany must have it, and that's why you're going up on the block. And so he says that my problem is that. So he approached them with this idea because he wanted Kylan to convince Sarah Beth that it was possible they had it. He approached Hannah and Tiffany and he said, "Will you help me with this plan?" And they were like, "No. Why would we
Why would we
do
do
that?"
that?
And so he's like, if they're not going to play ball, then like, what am I going to do with this whole situation? Like, he really likes this plan from Derek X to throw it to him and take the blame. Kylan says it doesn't matter that if they deny that they had the money, then that's exactly what they would have done
Mhm.
if they had the money. So that just makes them look more like liars.
Okay, I have a bone to pick with this plan. His plan is to deny it and pretend he didn't do it, but then why? Because is he going to get to final two and then admit it? And in which case he probably should have given her some time to process. Or is he never going to admit it, which is a ridiculous idea because he's done nothing in the game and he needs something.
I mean, this is Big D we're talking about. He's very soon going to be, sort of informed that he needs to adjust his plan because I'm going to say again, his plan is to say, oh, but it might be Tiffany or Hannah that has it. His plan is also, as we talked about earlier this morning, I don't know if you caught this contradiction, but he certainly hasn't. He also plans to nominate Tiffany next to Sarah Beth.
Yes.
Oh, but Tiffany must have done this. I guess she nominated herself, or maybe Hannah nominated her friend in the house. It's got to be one of them, not me, who hates Tiffany. Because I would never. It's obviously not me.
I didn't catch that, but I did now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kylan
boy.
lets him know you can't nominate Tiffany. If you're going to blame Tiffany, you're going to have to nominate Alyssa next to Sarah Beth. And Big D was like, oh, that's a good point. Oh, damn.
That still doesn't
Okay.
answer my question of when is he going to take credit for this?
Well, this is my point is that I don't think he knows. I don't think he hasn't thought past just he made a deal with Sarah Beth that he wouldn't come after her, and so he wants to get around that deal because he wants to come after her by doing so anonymously. I don't think he's thinking about like when do I take credit or when does the truth come out. I think he's just thinking about like
You're
this
right.
is
That
how
does
I
sound
gotta
like
do
Big
it.
D. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So uh so that's the idea. That it can't be Tiffany on the block because then they won't believe it's Tiffany. And he says that Kai says, I got to start winning stuff because I know that when I sit next to you in the end, Big D, I know everyone's going to vote for you. And it's I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose next to you unless I win a bunch of these comps. I know. I know it. I know it to be true. Everyone knows it. Everybody knows that you're going to win next to anybody in the end, Big D. And Big D's like, oh no, come on. You know that you have a chance to be like denying it in a way that makes it clear he believes it. And they both start laughing, like, oh, of course, Big D's gonna beat us all. He's such a good social player. They say, obviously, we can't sit next to Xavier. He'll beat us both.
Obviously.
Obviously. And Kylan says, also, I've been seeing the women. They've been chatting. I've seen them getting together and chatting. So we got to watch out for that as well. So, it's Big D believes that he can beat Kylan in the end. Is we really, really confirmed that one. Kylan,
Good on Kylan,
Kylan,
honestly.
Kylan is another player, makes a lot of mistakes, but man, is he good at manipulating people when he needs to. He knows how to play Big D exactly the way that Big D needs to be played. He has got Big D, and Big D comes off of the idea of keeping Derek around because that's not what Kylan wants. And so Big D no longer on board. That is it.
I'm so mad that DF thinks that he is in a good spot. I need him to know that he's not going to win because he's a bad player. Do something. Literally anything. I mean, I guess he is possibly helping this DX flip happen, but if he does, then he needs to take credit for it.
Mm-hmm. So Big D's going to talk more with Hannah and Azza about who he should nominate if he gets the power. But the bigger conversation is that, of course, now, Derek has all of the pieces necessary. He has Tiffany. He has theoretically Hannah. He got Azza on board briefly, but she was willing to acquiesce. And he got Big D on board, but he was willing to back down. So now, really, with Xavier going into solitary at some point today, then what he needs to do now is convince Kyland. If he convinces Kyland, then Kyland will pull Big D, and he can get Azza now. And this could happen. This very much could happen. Very unlikely. I will say again, I don't think he's going to get Kyland, but that's basically the whole thing. Now, Kyland is the only thing in his way with Xavier gone. So he's going to pitch to Kyland, spending a lot of time pitching to Kyland. He whips out the chessboard as he's been doing. And he tells Kyland, he says, look, this is how I see things. If you vote me out, then everyone will see you over here with these people, Xavier, Alyssa, Sarah Beth, that you will be seen as a foursome, essentially. And Kai's like, nah, people won't see that. Why wouldn't they see me over here? And he's like, because why would you vote me out unless you're working with these people? And he's like, that's so dumb. And he's like, that's obviously going to be the perception. Kyland's like, I hate people sometimes because that's not how this works. Like, dude, you're mad that people see what you're doing? I don't understand.
Yeah, basically. I want to win in secret and then be able to reveal it all later. My grand plan, I guess.
So Derek says, look, the problem then is that if you are in that group, you are the first one gone in that group. You are only helping Xavier by taking me out of this game. And this is when he goes on to explain that when he was talking to Xavier and he was looking at the chess pieces with Xavier, he literally had the realization that, oh my God, this guy is going to win the game. He is positioned to win the game right now. And,
He's like, I had to move the pieces so that Xavier wouldn't see that.
Yes, he was like, I didn't want him to see what I had done, which is interesting because obviously Derek is not seeing the actual way that Xavier is positioned to win this game. He's seeing a false version of the game where Xavier is also positioned to win the game. And that's, I think, again, because Xavier has not been super careful about maintaining the relationships necessary and keeping people in the right place so that they don't see him as this big threat. But he says this to Kylie. And this is important, not because Derek is right about the exact path that this will happen in, but just more. I mean, so many people have been talking about you cannot sit next to Xavier in the final two. He will beat everyone. And this is just continuing to reinforce this idea that Xavier is impossible to beat.
Is that one of those things where it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where they just keep talking about it, and no matter how true it is, everyone's like, oh, you can't sit next to Xavier. That must mean he's super impressive.
Yeah, whether it was true when it started or not, it is now becoming a thing.
Just because everyone believes it.
And if everyone believes it and he still gets to the end, then he must have done something impressive to get there, considering that everyone thought he could beat everyone. In the end, they still let it happen. That was my sequester strategy. That's sort of it's continuing to reinforce that. Worth noting. But of course, Kyland is not really going to give Derek X much in this conversation. We've got a situation here. Xavier going off to solitary. Tiffany might push more. Derek might push more. But I just do not see Big D flipping without the go-ahead from Kyland. I don't see Azza following through without Big D and Kyland ultimately. So it's going to come down to, can Derek convince Kyland? And I do not see a scenario where that happens, because how would it even make sense for Kyland to vote that way if Sarah Beth, with Sarah Beth, So the only way it would work is if Kylan doesn't vote that way, and it's the other 4 that vote that way, and Kylan pretends to be on the other side of the vote, which is not good for Kylan in any way, because now it looks like he's not in control of the game, which he really cares about. And it's not, it's not something that is actually good for his game in any way. So it doesn't make any sense for Kylan to do this. I do not expect him to. And yeah, as Travian says in the chat, and even Hannah's not on board. So, this is not happening, but there is.
It is Waffle Wednesday and anything can happen.
All right. So there we go. That's basically what we have for you from the day. Mel, anything else you wanted to bring up?
Let's see. It's nice. So I've enjoyed that they haven't been isolating the target when the person leaves, because we've seen that in future seasons where the big alliance is out in the open. And so basically it's like, oh, that person's leaving. Okay, don't talk to them because otherwise we're going to find you suspicious. So it's been really nice here to be like, everyone's kind of friendly and you don't have this like, oh, don't talk to DX or anything like that. So I'm enjoying, like, as much as I complained earlier about the camaraderie this season and how it's annoying from a game sense, it's been nice to watch from like I like watching humans be nice to each other sense, where the people leave and it's usually on good terms and it's just a game. And yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And honestly, this is more like brigade style than bomb squad style. It's kind of a throwback in that way. And the brigade was kind of the same way. Because it's like each person has their person. That means that when those people go, they have somebody to hold their hand.
It's so depressing walking them to the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's what we have for you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll of course be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. I will be live later today on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, to watch the episode with you tonight. And then after the episode, back here on Rob as a podcast, is going to be a recap of what we see. And then tomorrow, of course, another stream on Twitch for the Stock Watch, watching the episode. And then, of course, another recap of tomorrow night's eviction episode, where we will likely crown another new HOH as well. So tune in for all of that. You can also find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. Mel, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at YouCanYouMel. I think that's it. I'll just be agonizing over this week's Stock Watch with not many good options.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you